Okay. Cool, so it's 6:01. Who's doing minutes?
I am.
Oh, fantastic. All right, thank you. Great. Okay, so thanks, Helen. Okay, so today we only have Aiden here for 30 minutes. So I pushed all the things about him to the top so that he could get out of here to go to the skate park meeting. So we'll call it to order at 6:02. Public comment period. There's no public. Any additional items to the agenda? We good? Okay, great. Can we review and approve the minutes of December 12th, 2024?
I'd motion to approve them.
I'll second.
Fantastic. Great. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, the minutes are approved. Thank you. The only correspondence is we got this letter for Kristen Underwood from the Vermont River Conservancy, but is so I don't know if you want that. This is for Kristen, and it was in our inbox.
Okay, I'll go pick it up.
Okay.
Do we also want to acknowledge the email correspondence regarding Seth Hill? Maybe.
Could you remind us what that is?
Sure. That was just an email from the select board, I believe, and/or Valerie, asking if we might want to follow up on a conversation that the select board had with David Brin from Vermont Family Forests and Mr. Gale, who has a lease on Seth Hill for maple taps. And they sent us a link to review those meetings and maybe add it to our agenda for discussion.
Got it. Would anyone, well, so let's acknowledge that correspondence and we'll talk about that under the parks updates. Does that make sense?
Sounds great.
Okay, perfect. Great. Thank you. Okay, for new business, the annual report, I sent that out and several people approved it, and then I submitted that to the town. So that's done now. So thank you, Zaylee, for the rough draft. And then that's it. Anyone about annual report, anything? I didn't think so. Okay, then that moves us on to Old Business Conservation Commission membership. So there are upcoming membership changes in the works. Anyone would like to speak about this?
Yes, my term ends in March, and I am submitting my resignation from the committee.
We'll miss you.
Thanks.
I'm hoping that you'll stay on in other sort of committee capacities for the pollinator garden and so on, just as other ex officios have been available.
I could become public. I might attend your meetings as a public person.
All right.
Well, we'll definitely keep you in the loop on when we have work days or like any interesting like outdoor events and stuff. We like to include the alumni on there, so we'll make sure you're on that email chain.
Okay.
But we'll miss you. Thank you so much for all your help. I'm gonna miss you a lot, so I'm really sad. But I've been processing that for a month now, where it's new to other people.
And so my question is, should this take place immediately since we have ideas about my replacement, or should I wait until March?
I think whatever you're comfortable with is fine. We would love to have you, but if you feel like you're good, then we don't want to force you to stay, of course. So
I'm happy to do it at the regular time.
Okay.
Okay.
So that'll be
I'll come to the March meeting, but that will be my last meeting.
Okay, just help me with this. The annual meeting is the March or the April meeting? Does anyone know?
March.
It's the meeting after.
It's March.
It's March. Okay, cool. Okay, so you'll come to the March meeting then and sort of pass the torch or whatever. Okay.
Okay.
Really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Sorry, the camera's on the other side. I'm looking backwards constantly. There we go. Okay. Great. Well, we're sorry to see you leave, but thank you for all your help. And I'm glad we'll still know you if we have plant questions.
You do.
And then Aiden had to take a phone call just now, and he has an important meeting to get to. So we're talking about membership changes, and that you were excited to take that spot then. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So
I think it makes sense.
So when we have our annual meeting, which we believe is in March, we'll just swap you into that spot.
Perfect.
And then you can vote on the minutes, or otherwise nothing will change. So that'll be great. Okay, well, thank you very much to you for offering and Helen for your time. And then let's move on to No Mo May while we have Aiden here.
Mm.
So is that good with everyone to No Mo May it now? Great. Okay, we'll move on to that bullet point. Okay, what do we got? What's happening?
So Meredith, I talked to Meredith and actually Carolyn called and we rebroached the conversation of No Mo May. Again, there's a few things to consider about where we want to do No Mo May, what it's going to cost to cut the grass down, which is twice. So there's an extra cost there. And
Twice the cost or twice the cutting?
twice the cutting cost, right? So we're gonna have to, it's gonna have to go, they're gonna have to mow it once. They're gonna be a bunch of cuttings, then they're gonna have to do it again to actually get it cut, because it's not gonna cut it clean the first mow, depending on how high it is. So that's also tentative on how much rainfall there is.
Mhm.
So more robust the grass is, more rain, so on and so forth, more cutting. Also, like I said before, where we want to have it and like where we want to showcase it and explain it and how we want to bring that out to the public. The green is probably not the best place. Carolyn did mention, which was a good idea, which we didn't really discuss further.
We're just
at
doing a
the
bunch of
time,
ideas.
Which was maybe to have a patch of grass at the park to explain it, just because if not, maybe it won't work in the sense that we want it to and why No Mo May, but it'll showcase, because it's a public place and people walk by and be like, oh, why is this patch this long and why is it not being mowed and why is there a sign here and a QR code, and we could showcase it that way. I think as a board should figure out where you want to stage it officially for the environment, for the beneficial part of it, and how you want to disseminate that information to the public.
I fear that I like the idea of having a demo plot on the town green where there are way more people than any of our parks. I fear that there's a high probability that it will backfire in the sense that it won't look any different from the grass around it, because there's a good chance it won't be any taller than the grass outside the plot. At least this past year, the grass did not grow significantly in May, so it wouldn't look any different. So there'd be this sign saying, here's No More May, we're doing it to promote pollinators and spring nesting birds, and people are going to stand there and say, what? This is some joke. This is a joke, right? So I just worry.
Well, like I said, it's tentative on rainfall and sunshine versus rainfall and when our thaw is and all. Those are all
So
things to consider,
what you
yeah.
could do is define an area that will not be mowed, and maybe put 4 posts, but don't put up a sign until it's clear that it looks different from the rest of the lawn. And then you
Sure.
put up a sign and
Yeah.
say, hey, in case
No,
you're wondering what's happening here, here's how we would explain it.
Then again, wouldn't it be beneficial for people to see it's really not that drastic to do?
Right, but it doesn't promote pollinators. I mean, not mowing that section of the town green is not going to be promoting all of the things that No Mo May is supposed to be promoting. I mean, one thing it will promote is that much less lawn has been mowed, so you've saved carbon emissions by that tiny fraction, but you're not going to see an abundance of wildflowers there. You're not going to find nests of spring nesting birds. You know, it's just going to be a place with slightly taller grass.
Well,
Well,
maybe.
yeah, which is what I
sorry.
was alluding to. It's just, it's a demo spot as
Mhm.
you described, like, it's just, it's not there to actually maybe provide the function that we're looking for. It's there to get the public aware of what this is, and then be like, actually, what we're applying it to is here and here and here and here.
Yep.
I kind of think the
I like that.
idea of leaving the sign down until it looks like something might be worthwhile, though.
Sure.
like Helen says, like give it till May 15th, and if it's with a cordoned off area that we're not mowing, and then add a sign and direct people to the idea if it looks distinctly different enough for them to actually compute what's going on.
I think that you could expand the idea, and I think you have to be bold and take a chance that you're going to create curiosity. The QR code, that was brilliant, because these days that's so quick to just go ahead and then you could have maybe a plot that was available that somebody could see on a screen if somebody's going to maintain a website of sorts at Sycamore. And then it could be explained that, we don't necessarily consider it viable because of the level or the altitude of the parks at Memorial and Eagle. But I think it's worthwhile doing, because I don't really feel like it can backfire. I feel like it only really offers people a chance to understand a little bit more. And if they're curious, they look into it further. So I feel like it's an educational opportunity, and it's probably part of our mission that is underutilized.
And so we've said in the past that I think the rec department has pushed to say, let's move it to Eagle instead of Sycamore, but then we've said there wasn't a lot of ecological benefit at Eagle. So maybe, I don't know what we want to do about that. I don't know what the best thing is, but I do think we have like two pieces here, right? We have an educational mission for No Mow May, and then we also have the helping the pollinators and all of that, like the ecological. And so I think we have to balance like what we want to do and what the plan should be. So it sounds like there's a lot of support for a small demo patch on the green. Is that what I'm hearing?
And there
I think
We'll put the signs up once for sure. It looks like
there'll be
something
people in
worthwhile.
town who are not going to mow their lawns in May. I see the frequency
Oh,
of
they're right
this
here.
every season kind of going up. So, I was like, the first time I heard about the concept of, I had just been driving around town and be like, man, people are really letting their like lawns just like go. And then my chiropractor explained to me like, oh, my lawn's, I was like, dude, you gonna cut your lawn or what? And he was like, no, this is what I'm doing. And I was like, oh, okay, I get it. So,
Yeah.
I've just noticed over the last few summers that or the springs, that frequency of people not mowing their lawn has gone up in town.
I think
So-
anything we can do to increase everybody's awareness of it and to teach them. I think I agree with John. That's part of our mission, is to teach people, who might just kind of scoff at it, and not realize what it can do.
Right, and to express like the minutia of the fact that No Mow May is like an ecological phase. That's just a phase, like it's a phasing. It comes and it goes, and then you mow your lawn and you move on. But there's that window.
Mhm. And then what were the rec department's feelings on doing Eagle or a large part of Sycamore, or what's that vibe? So we just know what we have to work with.
Sycamore Park would seem like it would be the best spot, but also Sycamore Park's the biggest park. So maybe we find a balance in which part of Sycamore Park, like the back 40 towards the access, is mowed. And then we do some sort of spot maybe around the apple trees, because might be a good spot. That's a good swap, like do from the apple trees all the way to the back. I don't see a lot of traffic footprints around that area. It tends to be like more towards the road on that far side, towards the river shoreline, and up through like more to the left side if you're entering Sycamore Park. So maybe something like that.
I completely agree with that, because I know for my property, there's some areas where I just feel I have to go ahead and consider mowing earlier. I push it off. And then there are other areas that I know I can let go because it's not going to be an issue, and then get to it. And so I think for Sycamore, that's the way to proceed. I've always advocated the idea of brush hogging because the tendency is the prickers, the edge between fallen branches, everything else, there's a slow creep encroachment into the mowed areas. And so if you don't deal with that at the start, you're just ending up with less grass and less grass. And well, that's, it's sort of minimizing the park area. But I definitely think you could choose, and also back to this idea of, well, they have to do 2 cuttings. I heartily disagree with that, because I just think, well, you've skipped 1 cutting, so already there's a savings. I think it's just a ploy potentially on the maintenance guys to just say, oh, no, this is
Well,
gonna be, it's gonna change our
yeah.
plan and it's gonna
They-
cost more. I just
The
don't buy
dialogue
it.
could be leveraged. Yeah, I agree with that. Like, I mean, as a former landscaper or life landscaper, when Meredith told me that, I was like, those are the same guys who do my lawn. So they blow it out in like 15 minutes with 2 guys on 0 point turn. So, that's a conversation to have with them. Cause if we choose to do that back section, near the apple trees, which I think is the most ideal also because we did a bunch of Japanese knotweed mitigation around the egresses and pathways through the park. And that's another phase of project that needs to be done. So having the grass short around those areas is ideal.
Nice. Yeah, I like the idea of trying to balance, right? Like if we have, last year we did 1 patch that was in the front of Sycamore Park so that it could be good ecologically, but also an advertisement. If we do the advertisement, marketing, educational piece on the green, we can do something that's more ecological, like in the back of Sycamore, right? And that kind of
Right.
balances. I think
And
that's
it's
nice.
not where we're working on mitigating Japanese.
Right, it won't bother anyone, it won't hurt the
Right.
knotweed
One of
project,
the
yeah, that makes
less,
sense.
less.
But
Well,
and
we can-
Sycamore can still be an advertisement as well. I mean, it's
Oh,
like
of
it gets so
course,
much
yeah.
traffic.
I guess it
but
doesn't need
it's,
to be right up front.
like, I mean, it still seems like having really good signage at Sycamore would be valuable. The amount of traffic that park gets compared to Eagle makes it a much more viable word spreading tool
Definitely.
than Eagle does.
I'm
Yeah, I think
slightly
we-
joking when I mention this, which is in the political climate that we're in about, the affordability and taxes and everything else. If by any chance we could support that this by cutting less, it's better for the environment and maybe we're saving a little bit on our maintenance cost. You couldn't end up with a better win-win, but I'm not sure that really factors out.
Okay,
Well,
so
we
in the
won't know until
interest,
we do it.
yeah, in the interest of time though, because we only have Aiden for 11 more minutes, and I know he wants to talk about parks, so I think this is a really good start on this discussion. And if you could continue following up with the
Sure.
price and think about some of these ideas, we'll talk about it next
Sure.
month. Would that be okay?
Yeah, no.
If it's possible, I think we should talk about some of the parks things. Is that okay?
Sure.
We good to talk about parks? Okay, so this is all still kind of about the parks we're just talking about, but let's move on officially then to the next park update. And we have Eagle Memorial, Sycamore, Saunders, and there's a Seth Hill. There's a lot of different emails we've had as well going on about different things. I just want to make sure we're all good. So any updates from your side of what's happening at those parks?
Memorial Park's pretty quiet. I pull up to the driveway, I check to see if there's any footprints and make sure everything's looking copacetic. And just wandered down gently and carefully in the snow down into theirs to check it out. And it's asleep, it's closed. Eagle Parks, again, looking fine, everything looks good, nothing's out of place or out of the ordinary. I did fix the informational kiosk at Sycamore Park. A while ago, we had a microburst and it took one of the glass panes out.
Oh my gosh.
And it's too big for one person to get back in there. I was able to get it with a friend back up into it recently. But the top tracking is kind of askewed. Either it's coming loose or the wood is shrinking enough over time that it's not like robust anymore. So something to address in the spring, but I think the pane should stay in there for the duration of the winter.
Yeah, and we had a report at the Saunder Rivers access, Bristol Flats area, that the kiosk was knocked over. Is that what it said? Kristen,
no,
you see
I
that?
think- or at least maybe I didn't read it carefully enough, but I think they were concerned about from the kiosk, they thought there used to be a trail down to the river, which there never was.
Oh, okay.
And they thought it had been eroded by the river. And I do agree the river has eroded a little bit toward the kiosk, but there's no trail there. There never was a trail there that got eroded. So, I mean, I meant to reply to her.
Got it.
I think that's what she was concerned about was that it was kind of a vertical drop
Right, that
down to the river
the
from
trail
there.
had a vertical drop. I thought the kiosk was a vertical drop. You're like, oh
Got
no,
it.
the kiosk is vertically dropped over. Okay.
Yeah. Yep. So I
Okay.
replied to her that that was the case.
Okay, that's good to know. So just the one kiosk has some problems then.
Yeah.
And then Sycamore, we talked about a little bit already. Anything else about that? Brush hog, something. Okay. What about the Saunders River access though? There was an email that I received. I forwarded to Kristen about
Yeah.
interest in the property in some way.
So because
Um,
that property has a river corridor easement on it, and that easement is held by the Vermont River Conservancy, they need to do as part of their stewardship an annual inspection of the property to make sure that the property is being managed consistently with the interim management plan that's in place there. So that's what that person did and then sent us a report.
got it.
I can reply to her about the trail, that there never was a trail from the kiosk.
Mhm.
They also mentioned signage along Route 116 would be good. And yet I meant to find our interim plan. We've had this discussion when we originally prepared the interim plan, that this park is not a park to attract lots of activity. It's a park designed to address floodwaters, essentially be like a stormwater containment area. And we aren't really wanting to draw large crowds into there. So there was that as an issue, but there was also, it would require an involved permit from Vermont Agency of Transportation and quite an expense in order to erect any sort of sign out there at 116.
Mhm.
So in the past, we opted not to do that for those
Yeah.
reasons. Yeah.
I think we should refer to it as a conserved property and not a park.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea, and I think that's why we call it the river access. It's not really a park. It's an
Yeah.
Yeah.
access, but it could be, might be a even more clear way to say it. It's a conserved property.
Yeah, I think the tricky thing with it being referred to as an access always seemed to me that it would be easy for people to assume that that was an access to the river,
Yeah,
a
Right.
launch or something like that.
Right,
Which
yeah.
is probably what I would think if I saw it on a map or a,
yeah,
something.
Well, and having an informational kiosk too, it seems like, oh, I'm supposed to go up there and read the kiosk and do something there, right?
Right.
yep.
So yeah, no, it's a little bit of a complicated property. But okay, I'm just glad to know they did their thing. They said that if we they could mobilize volunteers or funding to support any goals we have for the property, but it feels like at the present time, it's already fulfilling all the goals we currently have for the property. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think that's a good way to say
Okay.
it. Yep.
Okay, that sounds great. What other parks things do we need to talk about? The Seth Hill, I totally missed those emails, the holidays and all. What were these emails about now? About Seth? I just
I
totally
did,
missed them.
yeah, I did too. I think the gist of it, and I didn't do my homework either before
Did
tonight,
anyone else read those emails?
but the gist of it was that David Brin came and told us about the erosion control work they had done. Um, and then after the fact, that same erosion control work, I think, makes it difficult in some ways for Don Gale to access the property for the maple taps. And so he was requesting, could some modifications be made? And I think my assumption is the select board was suggesting that maybe this is a discussion that the Conservation Commission wants to take up and advise on, and take further. And they were kind enough to point us toward the points in the video recording of that select board meeting where this discussion happened. And would we take a look at that and then maybe discuss it at our next meeting? So I don't know, maybe we want to do that for homework for next meeting.
Got it. Yeah, that
and-
sounds great.
And put Seth
Thank
Hill on the
you.
agenda. Yeah.
Thank you for catching
I
that. I
think
absolutely
in
missed
some
that.
ways, I think that's really a question for Matt Atkins and
And
David
Vermont
Brin,
Family
really, because
Forest.
it's hard
Yeah.
to. I mean, I can totally see why that would be a real pain for the sugar to get in there with a
Yeah.
truck and especially weighed down with a tub on the back. But I don't know that we really have the context and expertise to suggest what should be done about those. I don't know what he calls them, but the really widely spaced large water bar.
Water bars. Yeah.
That, like, what is he
Like,
going
one
to
thing-
do about that to make it more truck accessible? That's really a question for Matt, probably. I think Matt's the one that did it, right?
Right.
But
Did
it
the
is,
work-
it is something that we could coordinate the communication though. We
Yeah.
could talk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
Good.
working with Matt right now, actually, to talk to him about it and see if he wants to come in and offer us options. But it's a tricky, yeah, that's kind of, in some ways, it's outside of our area, really.
And the Don Gale sent another email with some suggestions for how he was requesting, could it be modified in this way? And so I think we need to engage David Brin and Vermont Family Forest in that conversation.
Yeah, I think
Well-
forwarding those emails too,
Yeah.
to show that, this is something that's, needs to come to some sort of balance.
Yeah.
So what are our next steps here?
I think we could watch the videos of the select board meeting where that discussion happened to get the perspective from both sides of the issue. And then maybe offer that we broker a meeting next time where we invite David Brin, I guess, to our meeting. I'm not really sure.
Aiden, were you just saying that you had forwarded this to Bryn? So
No,
he-
I'm saying like, it makes sense for David and Dawn to have a conversation regarding what Dawn has expressed in terms of accessibility for his sugaring and how it's impacting it. So,
Right.
we're kind of third party, more or less, like Kristen said, could help broker it. I mean, if we're gonna have a meeting, maybe it's important for us, Don Gale, and David to be under one dialogue over it and see, and we can all just kind of assess it that way.
Just to keep track of that though, our next meeting, it looks like it's February 13th, which is I imagine we have to already be getting in to prepare trees by then, right? Should
Yeah,
the
it's kind of
sugaring-
urgent.
Like sugaring,
Yeah.
that might be too late if we wait, because it's
Right.
almost, right, it's like almost 5 weeks. So we might not have time to help with that in time if it's a sugaring issue.
Right.
I think we should reach right out to David and pass along this concern and see if he has any, give him the opportunity to think about what might be done that still satisfies the goals that he had in mind when he designed the project in the first place, and also might answer the concerns that Don has. But
Yeah.
he seems to be our first, I guess him and, he'll deal with the actual, with Atkins, but
Right.
getting right in touch with him pronto because it is kind of an urgent issue.
And
Well-
David Britton wasn't on those emails. Does
I
anyone know?
don't know. I can't recall, but I could.
Yeah.
Because it does seem as though, where he could just be looped in. And it could be as simple as looping him into that
Right.
thread if he's not on there.
Yeah.
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 My
I would
recollection-
make him aware of it for sure.
I mean, my recollection is that these guys have been communicating for years because Don's been going ahead and sugaring that property. And so I kind of agree with Aiden in that, go ahead, let those two guys meet.
Oh, yeah.
and
David Brin is on this email chain. I'm sorry to interrupt. He's
Okay.
on the chain and he replies, thanks for copying me because they're steep. I think that they're doing it. I don't know if it says David Brin says he's happy to help. Yeah, it seems like he's
So there's some
already
dialogue
included.
there,
There's
yeah.
already dialogue with him.
It's not really clear what the select board, I mean, what the Conservation Commission can do.
Well, should we
It
just
says
should
Valerie
we contact
mentioned,
David Brin and say, hey, do you need assistance navigating this?
Yeah.
Or is it?
okay, so this is what it says at the bottom of the chain, or at some point in the chain, it says Valerie mentioned that the BCC as a group might step up to the conservation work at Seth Hill. My guess now is that an alternative plan to the steep old way up that very steep hill to the USFS lands could be very exciting and interesting adventure. VFF will be pleased to support the efforts that we can. Thanks Sam for the conservation work you do. But I don't know what he wants us to do. Man, I really am sleeping on all these emails. There's tons of emails, but they're all in December and I was busy with holidays.
No worries.
Let's see. It even suggests that we could use some conservation reserve fund money to deal with this.
I think the approach at this point would just have us just be like, hey, David and Dawn, checking in regarding these issues.
Yeah.
Let us know if you need us to weigh in on it or whatever.
Well,
As the commission, you know, for whatever, I mean, the reality is that Don and David know that land
right.
and are communicating. So they know, like, if Don's just like, hey, David, why'd you put that there? Like, oh, sorry, like, then they can figure it out, and then Matt can come in and do whatever he needs to do. He's like, I gotta get my truck here and there and the other thing. And as the commission, we should just be able to be available to that dialogue, and if somebody wants to, if they wanna chime in with us, we can be like, as a commission, like, oh, this makes sense, or if we have any concerns, we can voice our opinion, but.
Essentially, we didn't know much about this. I mean, it wasn't on
Right,
anybody's
exactly.
We all
radar
found out
back in
about
the
this when
fall,
David
and
told
then
us
Right,
what he
now.
had done.
I guess that's what I mean, so, I'm out of time, but, I'll catch in with you guys on the next one.
Yeah.
I'll
All right.
keep you abreast of any exciting developments on my parks run tomorrow.
Thank
Okay,
you.
thank
See ya.
you.
Yep.
But hold on, Carolyn, it sounds as though the line that you read out loud from the email,
Yeah.
David Brin responding to that was saying, he's implying that the Conservation Commission might be interested in exploring this place as a potential park
No,
for the town.
no, not so much a park, but to carry out some conservation activities that would address Don Gale's concerns, I think. But I don't know. I think we need to clarify that from.
Who was that email from that you were just reading? I missed that. Was
It
that
was from
Don's
David
email?
Brin. Then there's one from Valerie that says, is the Conservation Commission interested in getting involved in this? The Conservation Reserve Fund has a lot of money in it, and I wonder if someone might be available to accommodate the sugar bush operation and recreational access. Chris Purley, a member of the fire department, also noted after the meeting that emergency vehicle access is important in the event of a forest fire or injured person. So now they're talking about using Conservation Reserve Fund money, which I don't know if that can be used for a property improvement like that. It says
I don't fully understand why. So, okay, emergency vehicle access to the national forest on the other side of it. We have thousands of acres of national forest that has not got emergency vehicle accessible roads running into it. I don't follow that point totally.
I think it would be if someone were on the town-owned property and needed rescuing, that would,
Yeah.
it would be difficult to rescue. Well, yeah. But like you
Yeah.
say, a lot of upland area is hard to access. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, by the same token, I mean, Memorial Park would be a heck of a thing to drag somebody out
Yeah.
of too.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of, I don't quite follow that. I think what we have here is kind of going to be a problem if there needs to be good access for the leaseholder to the top side of that property. All of David's work was related to mitigating storm event water coursing down these trails. We can't, it seems like building another one for them to be, if that's the idea, would run counter to what David was trying to do in the first place. But all of this though is like I'm saying, I think it's just kind of above our understanding of the situation is really David's question to answer. If better
Right.
access can be achieved while achieving or continuing to achieve what he had sought to do in the first place, he's the one that knows that. I don't quite see what our role exactly is in this.
Well, and at the end, the last one that I'm on, and I just forward this to all of you as well, if you want to look in your email. The last email on that chain is from Don again and says he now understands why the water bars were installed and understands as part of the plan, but I'd like to know if it's possible to taper, Tapper. Okay,
I
thanks.
think he meant taper. Yeah.
Okay, I want to make sure if it was a forestry term, I didn't know.
Yeah.
The water bars, to keep them the same depth as required by the accessible practices, make them easier to traverse or replace with an open culvert design. Design allows for anyone or anything to easily travel over the culvert and is easily cleaned out with a Pulaski. I don't even know what that means. So as you said, like this feels like I don't know how to help with any
Pesky
of
is a
this.
fire tool. It's like an axe that the
Oh,
fire.
thank you. Okay, thank you.
I see this as a two-step process. I see first is they're already in communication. Don and David are communicating, and the sugaring season is around the corner. So somehow it just seemed like they wanted us to be aware of that they're trying to come up with some plans. And then the second part of the process is that we maybe would be best to go out and visit this property, just like we were all in the van last year to visit the parks because of the accessibility project. That could be a trip that could be planned sometime in the spring, and then just get a better handle and either coordinate that as part of a meeting with David and others. We have a role to play. I'm just not so sure what the role is. It may be very insignificant, kind of like Saunders, where it's a conserved property that has a water function, and that's about the limits of it. But we're getting pulled into this, but I don't understand it as well.
Right. It is not defined as a park of the town.
Correct.
And I mean, Vermont Family Forest has lots of land, and I don't think they're hoping that we will come in and help them navigate difficult legal issues that arise when they make changes in the land that affect someone else who uses that land as a way to access their sugar bush. This was never a town park. So it
is town property.
But it's not, but the town has lots of property.
We own it, but it happens to be in Lincoln, but Bristol owns it.
Right, but I don't think the Bristol Conservation Commission is responsible for all the land that the town owns. Is that true? We are responsible for all the land the town owns?
Well, we're responsible for conservation issues townwide.
Yeah.
Right.
Which does
An
lead to
interesting
the
property that Chief Bristol's
management,
conservation
like,
objective.
if there's a conservation question on anything that has to do with Bristol, right?
Mm-hmm.
It does raise the question of how this project happened in the first place with us having anything, knowing anything about it. How did that come about?
That we asked those questions.
Great, but
yeah, there were some emails about that a year ago when they were getting funding for this, and they didn't ask us about it. We were informed that they had received funding. Was the first we heard about it.
Yeah.
So speaking of funding, when they bring up the Conservation Reserve Fund having a lot of money in it, so I assume Vermont Family Forests funded the project in the first place. Is that case?
No,
How did that?
No, got a grant.
The original project was funded by a grant through the Addison County Riverwatch
Gotcha.
Collaborative, and ultimately it's state funds. But
so if any sort of additional work were needing to be done, we would have to figure out a way as delegates of the town, so to speak, to figure out how to pay for it, right? That's the idea.
Yeah. Right. I think that often when anything happens that's like outside that seems parkish or conservation-ish, it's easy for the select board to go, oh yeah, the conservation reserve has money, maybe that'll work. And then we often say, oh, whoa, we only use it in certain cases. It has to be used for land acquisition, conservation easements, and or interest in property that achieve Bristol's town plans conservation objectives. And then from there, we've seldom ever used it outright. It's almost always used to leverage other monies. And so I would be very careful. Often I feel like we get an email that says, what about using that? We go, whoa, that's not actually how that money is supposed to be used, right? And that's not how the town approved of that. And that was the original language. And so I just want to be always very careful with using that fund for the right reasons, right?
And how does the select board think we might use those funds in this particular
Unclear.
circumstance?
I think
It was just a off the cuff comment from Valerie in an email, so I'm not overly concerned about it.
I'm not going to put this in. Yeah, okay.
It seems
I
though it
think
was just
Great summation, Carolyn. That summation really, I think, just highlighted how we should view this whole situation as far as the funds are concerned.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
do need to think, I mean, whatever answer, if there is an answer to this problem that involves moving dirt, it's going to cost money. And it does behoove us to think about whether or not we want to get involved to a degree that we have to figure out how to find money for it.
Well, but wouldn't
Right.
it, if we were to use that money, it would have to do with conservation, right? Not just.
Right.
Yeah,
But so that puts this whole
Improving the
thing in
road.
kind of a weird spot where they got
Right.
they got a grant for it. That money is presumably gone. So who does pay? Who
right.
does
Now
pay?
now they're asking to
Um,
undo something or redo something, which
Right,
I don't
and
know if that would align with the conservation reserve fund goals, right? If it's supposed to achieve conservation objectives. And it's a property that we have not been asked to ever consider before. We didn't apply for that money. We didn't do anything with it. It's a tricky situation. I agree.
It also puts us in a kind of a weird spot that I think we should hope to avoid, of trying to like legislate the value between a leaseholder's access to a sugar bush and the floodwater mitigation project of another separate party, which I don't think we want to be in the middle of exactly. And I think I just hope they figure it out.
Mhm.
That's another good summation, Alex. I agree with that.
Well, so should our move be to contact David Brin and say, hey, is this something that is
Well,
being
he's on the email chain. So everyone has the emails now. I sent those about 7 minutes ago. We could just reply all to the list and say something about, do you need us for, I don't even know what we're supposed to say,
What
frankly.
was the last message the one where the leaseholder suggests tapering off the water bars and
Yes, yeah.
So we have,
and that's where it sort of ends, and that
a
looks like that was
response
6
from David
days
to that.
ago. And there's no response to that, I think, and that was 6 days ago.
Yeah, those two need to go up there and talk this out. Because at least one of the solutions that is suggested by the leaseholder is a big deal, like going back and adding culverts and
Mhm.
Well, David
that's an
Brin also-
entire undoing of what was
Well, David Brin
the whole
also
new
had a lot of
project.
reasons for not using culverts, right? He went over.
Right, yeah. That's what I guess that's what sort of that's what made me think about this issue of us getting into like deciding whose grievance or whose mission is more important, which is one, again, I don't think we want to be involved with.
I'm summarizing the end of this discussion in the minutes by just saying it's unclear how or why the BCC should be involved.
Not
Okay,
good,
how
very
about-
bad, don't touch it.
Maybe I'll just do a reply all to that chain and say that we don't know too much about the property. David Brin's really the one who's taken the lead on that. We don't know too much about it. Although we hope to tour it and learn more about it over the coming months when as we've been planning to do once we heard about this project, since the project's new to us too. We don't know too much about it. Something like that, just vague, which I think would be accurate. Does that sound like an appropriate next step?
Yeah, I think also, I don't know how exactly we go about assuring this, and I want to separate this from, I think all of us were very excited about this project and what David did, and it's wonderful. We do need to find a way to make sure that this sort of thing doesn't happen in the future on property that we may end up being responsible for without us having a really good opportunity to talk through the potential ramifications.
Yeah.
This is a pretty weird spot for the commission to be in.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
like, it is a little clunky how this all came together. And I think it would have been useful for us to have a chance to say, let's make sure the leaseholder understands the consequences of what we're about to do here, and just make sure that this wasn't going to get screwy.
Yeah,
And
that was
I don't
my
know how we
question.
make sure that
Who
doesn't
okayed
happen
it?
again next time, but
Right. Well, the first we were
Um,
told about this was just congratulations, we got this grant, right? So,
Yeah,
but that's what we
not
talk
that-
about with the new town administrator, perhaps,
yeah,
whoever that will be, right?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm gonna write that. Does someone want to look at it before I send it to everyone? Anyone want to look at a draft before I send that to make sure I accurately summed up the conversation?
you
in
want
the
to just
email?
send it to the whole gang and
Yeah, that works.
Respond.
Oh, no, I don't think I do want to do that because that could be an open meeting thing. Thoughts?
Can you just say out loud what you think you're going to say in that email?
Something along the lines of, we don't know too much about the property. It's really David Brin's project. He knows the land. We are not involved in it at all. And that all we know about it is what he told us at our meeting a couple months ago, whatever the date is, we'll have to look it up. And then we're looking forward to visiting and having a site visit for the first time in a few months. But this ultimately feels outside of our purview at this time. Something like that?
Who authorized this project in the first place?
The select board would have.
Yeah, so I mean, it's kind of like that. If you're going to do that and you're not going to involve all the people that it affects, then now it's sort of on them to
Right.
work this out, wouldn't it be?
Well,
Yeah.
in fairness, none of us, I don't think, have viewed the select board video from the evening where this was discussed, and I think that might give us a little more insight into how things came to be and what the issues are.
Yeah, that sounds great.
I didn't do my homework on that
So
yet.
maybe Carolyn can send this email replying to everyone who was on the original email with what she has just stated, but we can still do our homework, watch
Mhm.
the video and talk about this at the next meeting. Is that?
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds fine.
Who would be sending out the video, and would there be a start point, an end
I
point?
already
Yeah,
sent the video
It's in that
to you.
chain. It's in the
And it
original
says-
email from Valerie. Yeah.
It says
Okay,
it starts at it's from Ian Albinson, and it says it starts at 18 minutes in.
all right.
It's a YouTube link. So I'll reply with that information to the people in that regional chain, and we'll sort of see where it goes from there. We'll watch the video and we'll get a sense of what's happening there. And then in terms of, just avoiding future issues. It's hard because you never know when they're going to pop up. But that's my personal segue to the next item. Would you like to move on? Okay,
Sure.
great. So, sorry, Kristen.
Oh, sorry, Carolyn. On the issue of Saunders, there was an original email to you from Vermont Rivers Conservancy that had the report attached. Would you
Yeah,
be
didn't I
able,
send that to you?
would
No?
in the forwarded email, there was no attachment when you forwarded or replied
Oh,
to I didn't get the attachment. If you could just forward the report.
sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah, I can do it. Yeah. I just didn't
Yeah.
come through.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's on that email. I don't know why you didn't get it. I'll make sure you get that.
Yeah, it might be a weird thing with my email.
Well, sometimes like the forward versus reply all or
Yeah, exactly.
I'm gonna do that to you right now, and then
Thank
let's
you.
just see if you get that during the meeting, and then we can touch back if you don't get it.
Thank you.
Yeah, I sorry, I thought that went through. Okay, accessible parks design. Okay, great. Letter D, accessible design for town parks. And there was a confusion about whether or not this was what we needed to do or what the timeline was on this at our last meeting. We thought maybe there might be someone that wanted to come in today, or maybe then we got an email last night saying we want the information now. And I wanted someone that was in the loop to talk about this. And then Kristen, you said that you were in the loop.
Yep.
Okay, great.
Yeah, so just as you saw, there's an outline for the report that they're sharing with us. they aim to provide a draft report on January 15th. And they were just kind of making sure that that draft report would cover all the items that we wanted to be included there. So it's as simple as that, really. There's not much more new information compared to the last time we talked about this. We're just waiting or anticipating the report. I did reply to Dan early this morning as a member of that committee that I hoped that their report would indicate the deed restrictions on Eagle Park and Sycamore Park, which constrain what we can do there. And that also I hoped that they would have a little paragraph in there describing that all three parks are riverside parks and will be and have been historically impacted by flooding to various degrees, and that that context should also be considered when we think about improvements at these parks and maintenance requirements for those improvements. So, and Dan replied, sure, that they're definitely going to include that information in the report. But I can also convey any other concerns or feedback that this group has to that group.
I thought the response that you had really summed up well the things we had talked about previously. Anyone else have any comments, new comments, or comments on the comments we've had?
I have loosely been following. Should have been participating a little bit more, but it seemed to always be, I don't know, falling off my priority list. I think that it would be smart to have on those maps the location of the park signs and the location of the kiosks. And second, bike racks. There's an ample amount generally of picnic tables and benches, but I think a bike rack in each of the parks would be probably a pretty reasonable addition. I'm not so crazy about the full asphalt of the paths, but I guess I leave it to those that are more familiar with how these things work. I just kind of think that can get cracked and it's got to be maintained over time. So I'd prefer more of a natural path, but it's kind of a combination of both. But the parking is, I think, as has been mentioned by Aiden and others, when you first come in, that's your first impression. That's been substantially improved. And with Sycamore, I counted, there's 24 parking spaces and 2 handicap spaces in each of the parks. The number is obviously less in Eagle and Memorial. But when you look, Carolyn, what you've got on the screen right now is Sycamore. I think it's a mistake to have the walking path be closer to the river because there's more scour there. I'm not sure why they wouldn't want to take the path and locate it as far away from the river. So theoretically on the west side, and those parking spaces, it just shifts the orientation there. That would be my one major observation.
I've been jotting down these notes, John. I'll pass them along to Dan.
Wonderful.
Yeah, the biggest concern for me has been always is just maintenance, right? And once it goes in, like Alex just said, like, well, then is it our job to fix it? Like, who fixes it in the future? Where does that money come from? Whose time and energy is that? How does it happen? I mean, just fixing the Eagle platform took 5 years, right? And so thinking about that, flood resiliency, thinking about what we do, once the asphalt is flooded, those stone slab steps, for example, going down to the river, how do you maintain that long term? And I think that's really important. I mean, even Memorial, the bridge, what do we do with that bridge now, right? No one knows. And so I just hate to get in another situation where we're dealing with that.
Yep.
Another observation is that where you see, Carolyn, if you could move the
Yep.
frame up a little bit, you'll see
Like
where that
that?
intersection is. Yeah, towards the kind of, I'll call it the peninsula of the property. I think most people in my having been in the park, where the one on the right, the east path that comes along the river, if where that intersection is, that kind of continued straight or wherever the path leads, that seems to be a broad expanse of where people enjoy the river. Right now, they just choose one access to the river, which goes on the western sort of more natural path straight ahead. So I would promote maybe adding that in. So there's two access points to the river. I'm thinking of Helen quite a bit with the pollinator garden. I think that should be identified on the map as well for Sycamore. And then skipping back to
It is.
Example of putting in a new pollinator garden, I believe is what that is, right?
it is there. I thank you very
I don't know what
much,
the
Nancy,
EX
for
means,
pointing
yeah.
that out. Yeah, I guess I thought it was a little closer to the parking lot. I didn't look that closely. Thank you for mentioning that. The other is on Memorial. Do I have it right? No, it would be Eagle, where Aiden kind of mentioned, oh, we have this path that goes very close to the river, and at high water, he was concerned, again, as you mentioned, Caroline, maintenance issues.
Sorry.
Yeah, let's see, was it?
This
Might
one's
have been
supposed to
the
be. That's
first.
Carlstrom. No, that's not
Yeah,
right.
that's
Wait, what is
Sycamore.
this?
That's
Sycamore.
still Sycamore.
again.
I think
Yeah.
it starts with Eagle as the first.
Is the beginning? Okay.
First. Yeah. So in the beginning.
West Walden Creek still. This one? There we go.
Yeah. So if you look in that at the bottom there where it's just got that short that I believe is the asphalt that goes pretty close to the river, and then there was an idea that there'd be some sort of steps down. I'm just thinking that probably would be wise to eliminate it. It just seems it's too close to getting topped over
Eroded by the river. Yeah.
debris or eroded. It's hard to say. That's at a point where with the way rivers work is because of that bend, it generally adds to the inside of the curve, and the outside of the curve it scours, if I'm not mistaken. So theoretically that could be adding a little bit more surface, but at the same time, if you look at the topography there, it's rather steep. So Kristen would have a much better way to diagnose that.
Yeah. And I have a similar concern about the lift that's right next to the platform.
Yes.
That I don't think the lift would survive even this spring, any annual spring run out when we have lots of debris that would get caught on that infrastructure. So I've communicated that before to Dan as well.
I feel like with the lift too, that's not like a really great spot to go in. It's not really
Right?
calm.
It is a weird
right?
spot for it.
If
Yeah.
I'm remembering right, it's not a calm spot. So like it's kind of a weird place to be put in.
Mm-hmm.
Is that right? If I'm remembering?
Yeah, totally, Nancy. I was just thinking the same thing. It's an odd spot for it.
Not where I would pick to go in the water.
Yeah.
Is
Maybe
there,
it's just deep enough there. I don't know.
There is a very deep pool right off the end of the platform.
Oh, okay.
It's also right next to the fishing pier. It creates a bit of a conflict of use there. Has there been any conversation about like utilizing part of this grant to establish a fund for maintenance or some such thing?
It wouldn't be possible the way
No.
the grant is constructed. It was for a purpose and it's all spent now.
Gotcha.
Or will be soon. Yeah.
Another observation that comes to mind, if you look, I counted 7. Is that right? Let me see. 7 picnic tables. And it seems to me that's kind of a mismatch where I only noticed 2 at Sycamore Park. So I was a little curious about why there were so many for Eagle, and yet Sycamore being a much larger park and having way more level ground and open spots would be more ideal, I thought, for picnic tables. I did notice in the almost at the end, I think they have some aggregate models, and they show how the legs of the benches would be firmly mounted into the ground, but they don't mention anything about picnic tables, and so that would be curious. Just wondering about how stuff is going to be secured and the durability of those things.
Mhm.
Aren't there not allowed to be permanent structures installed at Sycamore Park because of flooding? And so maybe they're
Because
not,
of deed restrictions.
right? So they're not
there-
proposing putting picnic tables there because of that?
Picnic tables would be an exception, I think, because they're theoretically movable.
Yeah,
Okay.
they're not.
Yeah, it's more
Okay.
that, built structures.
Right.
Even kiosks are allowed because they support the recreational use of the property, and, essentially they're 2 posts.
But like a pavilion wouldn't be allowed.
But a pavilion probably would not be allowed.
Well, what about stone
But the
steps?
stone steps, is that kosher?
Yeah.
It's
'Cause we've
probably in the
talked about
gray area.
We've
Yeah.
talked about steps before for Sycamore, just because there's that dirt hollow you gotta kind of like run real fast down to get to the water. We've talked
Yeah.
about steps before, and we've said, well, yeah, actually, those would just wash away. And it might not be allowed anyway with deed restrictions. Would asphalt be permanent structure? It's not a structure, is it? It's a permanent.
It's a gray
surface?
area.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
There's a clause in the FEMA, in the deeds, something about supporting recreational use or whatever, and I think we would need a legal interpretation of what would be allowed and not.
Got it. Okay, anyone else have comments they want included before, because this is going to be the final version now. We probably won't, I don't know if we'll continue discussion on this or not.
And what are the next steps in terms of this proposal? Does it go to the town for discussion and approval? Does it get voted on? How is it decided?
It gets finalized as a report that's sent to the town and the select board, but it's my understanding that these are not, I mean, then the town could do with that material what they want to do with that material. So theoretically, these will be partial designs that could be handed off to a construction firm to then proceed and implement, but that's all up to the town,
Okay.
how they would proceed from here forward.
And I'm assuming there's no implicit or explicit statement that these have been approved by the Bristol Conservation Commission.
Correct.
Okay.
Am I misremembering, or was the what is now an asphalt path at both Memorial and Sycamore, was that compacted gravel last time we saw these plans, or am I just remembering that incorrectly?
No, the plans that Carolyn was sharing are the same plans we looked at maybe 2 months ago.
Okay, yeah, I was for some reason I thought I remembered that as a compacted,
Yeah,
but
they haven't sent us any new or updated plans.
no.
Yeah. That might be easier to maintain given our concerns. But
Yeah, I mean,
I
it's
don't know if that was in there.
yeah, or maybe
Carolyn.
not. I guess I don't really know. I mean, maybe the asphalt is going to be more resistant to runoff and so on. It's a whole bunch of more petroleum in the dirt next to the river, for what that's worth. But there's a road running along it too. So
Yeah.
True.
Okay, well, so the timeline is then they were gonna write a report at the end of January, is that right?
They're gonna send a first draft by January 15th.
Okay,
So I imagine there'll be time for us to comment on that draft.
cool. Okay, great. So we'll see what happens then, and we'll see if we include that for like February meeting or not, depending on what they ask for and where we're at with that project. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yep.
Yeah, this was the last opportunity before the 15th to have some further input.
Okay, cool.
So if we were to sort of bullet point our input, location of the lift is a concern, and the what was our other big point? The stone steps in Sycamore being a concern in their location.
Yeah. I have some notes here about Jono's suggestion for adding bike racks, making sure that kiosks and signs at each park are indicated on the maps. That we have some concerns over the asphalt of the paths needing possibly more maintenance over the long haul, and that we would prefer more of a natural material for paths, balanced, of course, with accessibility. And we want to make sure that our paths are not too close to the river where they can be scoured and may want to be set back farther from the river.
How does the process by which the town assumes responsibility for maintaining such a project come about? Does the select board have to sign off on this and agree that the town will maintain it? Is that the sort of a next step?
Yeah, but what's coming out of this project is simply a final report with designs that are fairly advanced designs, like not all the way shovel ready, but close to shovel ready, so that it would be possible for the town to hand those over as part of a bid package to get contractors to bid on that and implement it if they found more funding to do that. But there's nothing requiring that we do this either.
Mm-hmm.
So I think any feedback that we have, we could share not only with Dan and the team at Du Bois and King, but also the select board at some point when they're considering these designs and the final report.
So this initial grant was for the engineer to draw this up.
Correct. To do the outreach and the public process and then develop this report with alternatives, but that's as far as it goes from there. Yeah.
It's such a cool project, and it could be so beneficial to so many people. I really love the idea of it. I just wish it wasn't so close to the river, right? Like, it's just hard with the river.
So where all our parks are, unfortunately.
Yeah, exactly.
I know I'm thinking about this, like, oh man, the watershed center, you could get, but like, oh, it's such an active piece right there, you know.
It seems like it's feasible at Sycamore. To me, like it does. It seems like there's a way to make this work at Sycamore. I have more questions about the other parks, but at Sycamore, it seems like there's a way to get this way to accomplish what all parties want to accomplish. I don't know whether that latest drawing is it exactly, but it sounds like we'll have more opportunity to help it get there, and I hope it happens.
Or maybe even propose that they do this one park at a time.
Yeah, I hope that it seems like that's maybe the most likely.
And see how it's received and how it's maintained and how the trails are doing, and then talk about it all over again at Eagle Park. But we have the plans.
Yeah, it seems that might be just the most likely way for this to pan out anyway, just as far as funding goes and so on.
Okay, so are we good on that for now? All right, great. So wildlife corridor project. I was able to get in touch with, oh boy, people with names. I'm a volunteer, I don't know. This isn't, let me figure this out. Sorry. I talked to people at zoning. So Kevin Hansen and AZ Larson. AZ Larson is the planning and zoning administrator for the town. And Kevin Hansen is the planning commission. And they emailed me a few times and we figured out the best time for us to come is going to be February 18th. So that'll be 5 days after our next meeting so that we can present and talk about where we're at with all these projects and ask them questions and, show us what we have, show them what we have and ask them what they would like or what we could move towards. And so that's exciting. And
Can
there's,
you say that date again, Carolyn?
yeah, February 18th.
Okay.
We're on their agenda. I believe it's the planning commission's agenda, but the email chain frankly didn't say what meeting they were scheduling us to meet with, but I think that's what it was. So that's happening. So we can talk briefly about that today, but we can also talk about that February 13th as well. So I was thinking maybe what I'll do is I'll write something up about what I would plan to tell them, and then also what questions we have for them. And then we'll see who wants to come to that meeting. Anyone for the Conservation Commission obviously should come, but then maybe we'll see if any Middlebury people want to come too that did part of the projects as well, and see sort of where we're at. Does that make sense?
I think so Max, funnily enough, works for me now. Max of that project.
Oh yeah, okay,
after
great.
he's graduated, and we
Oh,
were
he
talking
told
about
me
this.
that. Yeah.
We were talking about this just the other day, and he's around for the next few months, and I think
Oh,
would
fantastic.
love to be involved with that. So I think I don't want to speak for him, but I bet he'd be interested in coming to that meeting and
That
talk
sounds
about what
perfect.
they worked up. I would also love to be a part of that, of course.
Yeah. Okay, so Alex wants to do that. So, and then maybe I'll invite Alexis, the professor, and then is AJ still around too? Do you know, Alex? I felt like they thought they might be.
I don't know if
No.
AJ is. Bailey actually might still be then. He was going to stick around a little bit after.
He's going to graduate though, yeah.
Yeah, he had some sort of plan to be around here for a little bit after graduation, I think, but I'm not positive on that, and I don't know about
Well, it sounds like we can just contact Alexis and Max, and then they'll figure it out from there.
Yeah.
With the rest of the team, and then I also think we should just create some kind of document of sort of first there needs to be a where we're at, and that would be something that'd be great for the students. Like Max can run with that. That'd be fantastic. And then I also want to make a list of things, questions we have for them, asking them like, what would you want? Or this is what we have. What do you want? What next steps does the planning commission ultimately want? What would they do with this? What would they need that was different? Those sorts of questions to have a conversation about those things. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that feels to me like the most important next step, really, because as I was saying when we talked about this last meeting, like what we have really is kind of incomplete, but what we really need is input from them to say what would we like to have when we go about considering projects on the outskirts of town, particularly where we're running into these real like wildlands development interfaces. And it would be really useful to know like what if there are areas they're interested in, if there are just particular I don't know. It would be good to know what they want to see and what they would find useful.
Yeah, and
what we've got right now is not something that we can hand them and say, go forth and
plan zone and plan
zone or whatever.
Right.
But it could inform our next steps, and it could inform our areas of interest, and it would be very useful to just have their input.
Yeah. So my hope is that we can, in some way I'll ask how much time we have. They wanted to chat with me again next week. So, in some way catch up with them and ask how much time do we have for some kind of a presentation to say this is where we're at, and then how much time we would have for a discussion about next steps with them. I think would be the basic plan for that time. I don't know how long. They said with this on the agenda I don't know how much time that's gonna be. So February 13th, at our next meeting, we can touch base and say like, okay, here's our plan for what we're gonna do at that, I think it's the Tuesday meeting. So we'll have a few days to continue prepping if anyone has any ideas. That lines up really well just by luck. So I'll do the plan. Is that good? Anyone have comments or questions or anything now so we can ponder those before, because it'll be too tight to do too much major shifts or anything by that next time.
That sounds reasonable. That sounds
Okay.
good.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, great. Okay, so that brings us to Green Up Day. I just really want to put that there to remind us the Green Up Day is starting. I have to send them paperwork starting this month. And as far as I know, we'll do things pretty much how we did the last couple of years. But if anyone has input on that, just wanted to get that out there that we're thinking about Green Up Day starting. As of yesterday, they sent me the paperwork. So that's all. Anyone have any Green Up Day things they want to say? Okay, cool. Educational outreach. This was a bullet point that we put on wherever we talked last month. We made a list of upcoming things to discuss. This was on that list of things that someone had asked us to add. I have no idea who, that we should think about. Are we going to do an educational outreach thing? If we are, who would help run that? What that might look like, to think about that for January. So examples of educational outreach we've done in the past, we've brought in people that have done like a talk in Holly Hall where they've been like, they're talking about birds. Like we had someone do like raptors once. We had someone talk about tracks in the snow and about bobcats versus catamounts or something.
Sue Morse.
So we could think about what was that?
Sue Morse gave a talk on
Oh,
bobcats.
that's right.
Yep.
That's right. So we could think about if we wanted to do an educational outreach thing, what would that be? What would it look like? What ideas do we have? Does anyone want to run with that idea or not?
It seems like something that would be like educational for people to improve their yard or their property in a way that helps somehow in a conservational way. You know, whether or not that's like pollinator pathways and what can you do? I know that like I went to one of their talks a long time ago and they talked about like leaving your leaves in the fall and mowing them in the spring because it helps like ground pollinators and like stuff like that could be like stuff that people can do on a just normal human scale that can help.
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I don't have huge ideas on like what that should be or who that should be, but
there was a
direction.
gosh, this would have been a perfect thing to get Andrea Shirtsleeves involved with. But she just got the job as Vermont Fish and Game Commissioner, so she will be unavailable. But this was her thing, like private land, small scale.
Well, maybe she could have an idea about who though. Or
Yeah, reach out and see who's doing that for the state now. But somebody from the state in that capacity might be interested in doing a little outreach educational program with us.
Okay, this is great. You know what I'm gonna do? We're gonna put this on the calendar for February where I've written follow up with the Smiths. So that's great. Thank you.
Well, about what? What were our follow up with Zaley? I will have forgotten this.
Is that okay? Is that something you could do though? I send that email out and try to brainstorm. Okay, cool. Thanks.
There's another person who might be good for that type of presentation is a mid-alum named Emily May, who works for the Xerces Society, which is the Society for the Protection of Invertebrates, which include all these pollinators. So she knows a heck of a lot about bees and wasps. Her current job is trying to examine the effect of herbicides, insecticides on pollinator diversity and health. But she's very broad and gives very much more basic presentations that would be right up her alley. This sounds like the kind of thing she might be interested in doing.
Yeah, that sounds like it could be great.
So I could ask her.
Yeah, do you have her contact? Yeah.
Yep.
Just contact a bunch of people and see.
Okay.
Yeah, just for like general audience. Yeah. And we've done it before at Holly Hall. I've only gone to a couple. Krista, we used to do these before COVID with some regularity, but I wasn't really involved. Do you remember how these worked or anything?
Yeah, and because we're the Conservation Commission, we don't have to pay the fee for using the space.
Mm.
And we just show up a little early and set up all the chairs and then break down the chairs afterwards, and it's very straightforward.
Yeah.
And do we have a time
Um,
frame for this? Is the idea that this is happening in the spring or summer, or do we have any idea?
I think like
We
April
used to
or
do
May
more
might
of
be good
these.
if we're gonna do a pollinator or clean yard maintenance before everyone starts doing all of that to give them the information.
Yep.
I think the ideal months are January, February, or March because people start getting busy and outdoors. And I would have thrown in December, but between Thanksgiving, especially this year, how it was so compressed, and
So
then
compressed.
Christmas and New Year's, it's just too much going on. And so if you're going to go to the effort, you want the participation.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I think we could offer them a small stipend. We don't have a huge budget, but $100 stipend or something as a thank you for coming in to do that. I think we could afford something like that.
Mhm.
And often we have co-hosted these events with other entities, so like the Watershed Center
Oh,
or others, and usually done like free but donations welcome, and you end up doing just as well as if you charged money usually for
that's a
those.
perfect idea.
And then that money can go to the speaker, and if there's any left over, it goes in our general fund, I guess.
Cool. That's a perfect idea.
Point,
Yeah.
Kristen. Yeah, good point.
It might be kind of cool one of these days to have somebody who could speak on conserving your land for landowners. Somebody like Caitlin Cusack or somebody that's involved with private land conservation. What the benefits and pathways towards establishing easements and so on your properties are. That'd be really good information to get out there to landowners. I think a lot of people don't know what the options are and what the benefits to you can be, and what the long-term benefits for the land and people can be.
Yeah.
And there's
Right,
a lot
and
out there.
I think too, we can think about, some people do outreach as part of their profession, right? Like their role is to be the outreach specialist for their organization.
Yeah.
And so in that case, us just hosting it, giving a space, sending out some emails, provides that for them, that they might just come because that's what they do, right? Which could be another way to approach it.
Yeah, and in fact, I think they're not allowed to accept money because that is part of the job description and role.
Right, yeah. Or other people, it's different for different, yeah, exactly. So it could be that we could have someone that just really wants to talk to the people of Bristol about what they do as part of outreach.
Mhm.
You
So
know,
there's a lot of options out there. It's just something we thought of, we should think about this. This could be something we could do 3 of these next December, January, February or something.
Yeah.
But it's something that was fallen by the wayside. And we thought, let's get this back on our radar because we used to do these before COVID and we really haven't gotten to doing them again. And it'd be nice to kind of, get back to some of that public education outreach. Some of those things, the town plan, those goals that we have, some of those are about, telling people about endangered species in the area, telling people about land conservation, invasives, right? Those are good ways to kind of get at some of those goals as well as by having events like this. So
I completely agree, Carolyn. Also, you could have just a very short 4 minutes of this is the Conservation Commission's mission. This is what we do each time. So it's another way to introduce people to the Conservation Commission. And furthermore, currently right now, Salisbury has a number of speakers that they've hosted in the last few months. And prior to that, I used to live in New Haven, and New Haven, their Conservation Commission was extraordinary. Almost, I don't know, 5 or 6 months out of the year, they had speakers. So we could draw on the well of history of those two organizations, and somebody that spoke 5, 6, 7 years ago would be a good candidate to speak here again because it's timely and current always.
Mhm.
awesome. So who wants to think about educational outreach stuff? Does anyone want to be like, I'm the person, or do people just want to percolate the ideas or reach out? What are our thoughts?
Sounds like there's a few of us who should reach out to different people.
Yeah, and we I guess if we're reaching out to multiple people, we could pose it as like we're thinking about doing something of a series in the future of these things, so we don't end up with a bunch of people committed to our next thing or whatever, say would this be something you're interested in and coming and talking to the commission, and if we did a 3-part series this year or so on and so forth, and maybe get a little bit of a list of interested and available parties who could be a part of it for us.
Cool. So we'll just continue. If you have ideas, Jono was talking and now the camera has picked up the picture of Jono, which is really funny. I think we'll just continue this discussion next month, and people can tell us if they contacted people, what the vibe is, the level of enthusiasm people had for the project. If they want to do it like, yeah, we're doing one in March, or it's like, well, they're on the back burner, we'll make a plan. We'll feel it out next time. Does that sound like what we want to do going forward?
Mhm.
I'm seeing nodding. Great. Okay, great. So let's move on then, because I want to get us out of here quickly. So the next one is the BCC stipend. It has been restored. So there you go. I called the town office and I talked to the interim town administrator. He gave the entire story of woe. And he said, I don't want to hear about it. How much money do you want? And I said, I just want the original money we used to have. And he said he'd put it in the budget. So we're back hopefully to $300 measly a year that we could pay educational outreach with. We could make copies or buy fence posts or whatever. But that money was lost in the treasury shell game. And so it's supposed to be restored now. So
sounds like you could have told him any number.
Yeah.
That is
went with
true.
300 bucks.
He actually asked me, what number do you want? And I said, I don't want to defraud anyone here. I just want to be made whole with our original number. Even though there's inflation, I just want our original number back. I'm not trying to like hoodwink anyone here. I just want the original number back. So that's where we're at. So
Congratulations.
yeah, that joke was made. So there we go. So hopefully, I think I just bored him to death, and he said, "I'll just give you the damn money." Because it was just getting ridiculous. So there you go. So yeah. And then I was also warned in that meeting. Remember how I said I got those account numbers and all that treasury stuff will be better? Apparently, the account numbers may have been changed, so we may be back to square one on that. But we're gonna keep fighting the good fight and doing our best here. All right, so that's where I'm at. The stipend was restored. That's been a long time. And I finally just got a sympathetic ear. All right, well, the last thing is the bookkeeping. This was also part of that same conversation. I emailed several times with the clerk. And at one point, so this bookkeeping issue, the minutes have been sent, but not posted for almost a year now. I think a year as of this meeting. And so we've had several different clerks contacting the town clerk. I've made it one email with all the minutes as attachments to one email and sent that. The clerk replied back to me and said they were posted. And when I looked online, they were only 2 of them have been posted of the all the months I'd sent. So I re-emailed those back in. And then I called the town administrator and said, I just am worried about open meeting laws. We don't want to lose these documents. We need to get them posted. And I'm hopeful that that's going to get those posted now. So we'll see. But I did finally get someone on the phone to talk to about it and say, we just need them to get online just because they've been approved. We have all this record. We don't want to lose it. People's computers crash, things get lost. I don't know. It seems better if the town has it. So yeah, so I did talk to a human. Hopefully that'll get posted in its entirety soon. And that was the end of the comments that I had. Anyone else have any comments about that?
It's exactly 7:30.
Yes. Okay, so our next meeting will be on February 13th on Holly Hall and with a Zoom option, which is very popular. And then that looks like that's it. So do I would like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion. I'll second.
Who was your motion to adjourn?
Oh, to adjourn.
Great. All those in favor of adjourning?
Aye.
All right. Adjourn passes. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you all. I'll see you in a month or so.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Wonderful meeting, Carolyn. Thank you.
Thanks.